Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will turn the pages of When the Sleeper Wakes by H.G. Wells. The Sleeper Awakes is a dystopian science fiction novel written by H.G. Wells, first published in 1910. The story follows the journey of Graham, a man who falls into a deep sleep for over 200 years and awakens in a radically transformed world where he becomes the unexpected key to power in a society dominated by a massive economic monopoly. The novel explores themes of social control, technology, and the corrupting nature of power in a future dystopian world. Plot summary. In the twilight of the 19th century, Graham, a man haunted by endless insomnia, roamed the cliffs of Pentargen, battling a sleepless torment that had lasted for days. His mind, overburdened by the weight of modern life, had pushed him to the brink of madness. Desperate for rest, he found no solace in any remedy. The world had become oppressive, its daily demands a heavy burden on his fatigued body and spirit. The sleepless man longed for the escape of oblivion, the final rest that only sleep or death might bring. One day, in a fit of despair, Graham collapsed into a trance, falling into a sleep so deep it defied understanding. For over 2 centuries, his body lay motionless, preserved in a glass case as the world transformed beyond recognition. During his prolonged slumber, the wealth he had unknowingly amassed grew, and with it, the power of those who controlled his fortune. The world of his waking would be one dominated by towering cities, technological wonders, and a rigid class divide that placed the masses in servitude to the elite. When Graham finally awoke, he was no longer in the world he had known. The year was far removed from his time, and the world had become a labyrinth of machines, endless moving walkways, and massive cities that stretched far into the sky. Confused and disoriented, he found himself in a strange chamber, attended by men who spoke in a peculiar manner. They informed him that he had been asleep for over 200 years, and during this time, his wealth had grown beyond measure. Graham, once a mere man struggling with insomnia, had become the richest individual in the world, his fortune held in trust by a global government that ruled in his name. But all was not well in this future society. The common people, toiling endlessly under the control of a shadowy oligarchy, were on the brink of revolution. The vast wealth and power that had accumulated around Graham's name had become a tool of oppression, used to maintain control over the masses. The sleeper, as Graham had come to be known, was a symbol of authority, a figure revered and feared, though he had no knowledge of the role he played in the world's governance. Among the leaders of this oppressive regime was Ostrog, a cunning and ambitious man who posed as a revolutionary. He sought to gain Graham's trust, presenting himself as a liberator of the people. He convinced Graham that the ruling class, the so-called White Council, had corrupted the world, using Graham's wealth and name to suppress the population. Trusting Ostrog, Graham agreed to be the figurehead of a revolution that would topple the council and return power to the people. As the revolution unfolded, the masses rose up against their oppressors, overthrowing the council with Graham's endorsement. Yet, once the council was defeated, Ostrog revealed his true intentions. He had no desire to liberate the people. Instead, he sought to become the new autocrat, replacing the old masters with himself at the helm. Graham, horrified by the betrayal, realized that he had been a pawn in Ostrog's game. His awakening had set in motion a chain of events that only deepened the misery of the people. In the midst of this new regime, Graham's conscience stirred. He began to see the suffering around him more clearly, the great divide between the opulent elite, who lived in luxury high above the city, and the impoverished masses, forced to toil in squalor. The world had become a mechanical beast, with machines controlling every aspect of life, and the people trapped in a relentless cycle of labor. Revolts broke out across the lower levels of the city, driven by the despair of the workers who sought freedom from their mechanical chains. As Graham wrestled with his role in this dystopian world, he met Helen Wotton, a passionate woman of the underclass who was part of a clandestine movement against Ostrog's rule. She revealed to him the full extent of the oppression faced by the working class and inspired him to take action. Together, they planned to overthrow Ostrog and restore a semblance of justice to society. Determined to undo the damage caused by his name and fortune, Graham took it upon himself to lead the rebellion. But he was no longer the passive sleeper. He was now a man awakened to the realities of power, control, and the desperate need for change. With Helen's help, he united the scattered resistance forces, rallying them against Ostrog's dictatorship. The final confrontation took place in the heart of the city, where the great machines of production whirred endlessly, churning out wealth for the elite while the workers toiled in misery. Graham, armed not with weapons, but with the weight of his authority and the will of the people, faced off against Ostrog. The struggle was fierce, as Ostrog's forces sought to maintain control over the immense machines that powered the world. But the tide of revolution had turned, and the masses, inspired by Graham's leadership, rose in revolt. In a climactic battle, Ostrog's reign was brought to an end, his forces scattered by the sheer force of the people's will. The machines, which had symbolized the relentless oppression of the workers, were silenced. The world stood at a crossroads, its future uncertain but no longer in the grip of tyrants. Graham, though victorious, was left with the realization that the task ahead was monumental. The world had changed so drastically from the one he had known, and the struggle for justice and equality was far from over. Yet, for the first time since his awakening, Graham felt a sense of purpose. He had awoken not just from sleep, but from the ignorance that had kept him blind to the suffering of others. The future, though fraught with challenges, was now in the hands of those who had long been oppressed. That's all for now, but if this book spoke to you, H.G. Wells has more waiting for you. Find them in the description or on Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in H.G. Wells's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.